Hello and welcome to DY's banner review for August Legend 2024. Summer is now over and we have ourselves a new grand character and a new permanent character. Hope your guys' summer pulls went well and your sparks also. If you guys haven't seen, half anniversary things have been announced in Granblue. You can see what they are over here in these two things. Basically, we get some new missions and stuff. And most significantly, this time we also get a really cool new reward, which is this 10-part ticket, which is a ticket which gives you 10 SSRs. You can get dupes, but it's a very cool thing either way. And we also get some rings as well. As a reminder, if you guys have any questions about anything in the video, feel free to leave a comment below, come by the Twitch stream, or ask me on Mond, which is basically an Ask FM or an Ask Me Anything website. You can sort of see what other people have asked. As well on the thing, link in the description below if you want to ask me anything there. All right, without further ado, let's get right into the characters themselves. So we do get Grand Medusa, which a lot of people I feel like weren't expecting. A lot of my chat was expecting either Siegfried or Beatrix, so Medusa definitely came out of the blue for us. But let's take a look at Medusa first. So overall, Medusa is a really strong skill damage based full auto character. Let's take a deeper look into her kit so I can break it down a little bit more easily. First up, her first skill. It's a 10 hit damage skill, so lots of damage. Supplemental obviously benefits this very well. Supplemental damage skill weapons like World Ender, or you can just use regular supplemental weapons as well. And it also dispels a buff from the enemy. It also raises Toxicosis. Medusa doesn't do anything with Toxicosis, and as far as I know, there isn't anybody on Earth that would benefit from this, but it is a debuff that is guaranteed to land all the same. So if there's any debuff omens or something like that, this can be quite useful. Next, her second skill inflicts a permanent debuff. This is basically exactly the same as Wind Kaguya's S3. So if you know how that one works, this works exactly the same. And basically, this one does damage, it inflicts that debuff, and each time it gets a little bit stronger until once you click it 3 times, it is at its maximum efficacy. And then third skill, much like her summer version, she gets a can't act skill. So this is like Summer Medusa, it's like Summer Shalem, and it is like Yukata Vampy. Very, very strong skill for HL things in particular. And then this is where most of her kit revolves around, her 2 passives. She gets the Primal Pals passive here, and it basically, the most significant effects come at 4 Primal Pals, or 4 Primals in the team, which is end cooldown for damage skills when a foe uses a special action, which is very, very good for full auto, especially in Guild War. And then her 5th Primal in the team grants her the ability to recast her damage skills, so these 2 skills, twice each turn. So this passive is very strong, but the big downside is that it does limit your team composition because you need 5 primals. As an aside, MC does not count as a primal. MC is an other race character, so MC doesn't count here. Which means that your other 5 characters must be primal, which means you can't use Kaim backline. So that is a big deal. And the other thing is, currently in the game, there isn't that many good Earth primal characters. There's a couple, but it requires you to have all of them for her to be really good. So Medusa herself counts as 1. Raziel is a really good one, so that's 2. Olivia's 3. And then backline, you'll have someone like Uriel, and then you'll have +1, right? Can be Alexia or can be Yigi. You can also put off element primal characters as well. But generally your frontline, you probably want at least these 3, or if you're swapping out MC with Street King or Nighthound or something like that, you probably want Uriel there, right? So if you don't have these characters, you're looking at some other units who are definitely not as good as these 4, right? So this alone already makes her quite specific within Dirt. So her passive is strong, but it makes team building really specific, and if you don't have certain characters, your team might end up being quote-unquote worse than what it could have been as well, so do keep that in mind. I do think that even having 4 primal characters is still okay. Getting the reset cooldown on enemy special attack, I think that's good enough, but there will definitely be situations where you do want the 5th one as well, so do keep that in mind. All right, and then finally, her last passive, whenever she receives a Primal Earth ally's buff or healing skill, so a yellow or a green skill, it raises her resonance level by 1. And once it's at 4, it ends everybody's cooldowns just like how Kitten does. So this is an incredibly strong effect. Having Kitten essentially available within your kit is really, really strong. In full autos at the moment, you can do wacky things like activate Raziel S3 really early with this. So it's quite good for those types of things. The other thing is based on the resonance level, Primal Earth allies will get defense, water damage reduction, dodge rate, and dispel cancel. So that's obviously very, very nice. Once again, MC does not count for this because MC is not a primal character. So overall, Medusa at the moment is looking to be a really comfy skill damage based full auto character. She is very specific to a certain type of team due to her primal passive. In the future, as we get more primal characters, this will be alleviated a little bit. But for now, I think the team comp, the meta team comp is very, very limited because you need Raziel, you need Uriel, you need Olivia, things like that, right? So it's very specific. If you don't have those characters, you might not be able to get the full benefit out of Medusa. I fully expect to see her in high level full autos for NM200 and 250 probably as well in this upcoming Guild War. But outside of that, I don't think she'll see much use in permanent content outside of full autos, that is. So even though she has Counteract, which is historically very good in HL raids like Var Zero or Hexa, I don't think she replaces anybody in the meta teams because she doesn't really bring anything new, and she's also very clicky, which is undesirable for speed, essentially, right? I do think she can be used, and there's nothing stopping you from using her, but she doesn't bring anything too noteworthy at the moment. Maybe with the new CCW weapon raids coming, I think it's later this year, I'll have to double check that. But either way, with the new Revans tier CCW raids, maybe she'll see some use there. But for now, I think she is exclusively a full auto character, and a very specific one at that. All right, and then let's move on to her weapon. Because this one we do need to talk about a little bit. So this is Earth's Exalter weapon. And just like the Wind one, it gives normal attack amp. Unlike the Wind one, however, it gives Majesty. Wind gave Fandango, which is attack and multi-attack. And then this one gives HP instead. So Earth will be a little bit tankier in this regard. Much like every other Exalter weapon, you will want a minimum of 2 of these copies in your grid. And for min-max situations, you will want 3. This has pretty much been the case for every single Exalter so far, and I do not see this changing for Earth. Very likely, in Guild War, you will see setups using at least 2 of these weapons in most grids, and there's a pretty good chance, if you're going for like meta burst teams, that not having this weapon will mean that you have to take an extra turn, or at the very least, click extra buttons, so do keep that in mind. It is a Titan-only weapon, of course, so don't go borrowing it if you're Magna. It also has a really cool animation as a katana main hand. Also, one thing to note, it is a katana, which means that Glorybringer MC has much more viable weapons to put in the grid as well. So if you have hunting, chucking this weapon in your grid for glory is really, really nice. All right, and that's it for the weapon. There's not too much to say there. We've seen Exalted weapons before. We know how strong they are. 2 to 3 copies, and then you'll be good if you are a Titan player. All right, next, let's move on to Sevastien. So Sevastien, after being featured from the event, gets a playable SSR character. And Sevastien is pretty much a really sort of glass cannon-y attacker for Dark. He has this S1 buff called Sanguine Savagery, and during this buff he gets guaranteed triple, some echoes, and he also boosts his skill damage output. The main thing here is that every turn this is active, it will cut his HP at the end of the turn, and then when he cuts his HP, it will put these 2 skills off cooldown. So in full auto, he'll be doing a lot of damage per turn because he's clicking these high damage skills every turn, and also doing a lot of auto attack damage as well. On top of this, while this is active, his Ogi, his charge attack, will activate twice. So he basically will do lots and lots of damage. Now, since this does cut his HP, at some point he will go into red HP, right? And when he goes below 25% HP, which is red, this will deactivate automatically. It ends when almost knocked out. And when that happens, his first passive will activate, which is basically he gets into hiding, which means low hostility, so he won't get targeted by single target things, and then he will heal at the end of the turn. So he'll do less damage and he'll essentially recover slowly up. And then at the battle start, much like his wind version, he basically gives everybody a buff. Defense, refresh, and veil, which is quite nice. Unfortunately, this doesn't work from the backline, but if you are using him frontline, it is quite nice. So, Sevastien, I think at the moment doesn't have too much like notable usage in anything in particular, but I do think he can be a fun full auto character that you can chuck into your teams. At the moment, I've tested him in Horus, and Horus has some charge attack omens. So Sevastien having this double charge attack here has actually helped clear some of those omens, so he's sort of nice there, but you can also replace him with most other characters and it would do just fine as well. So nothing too notable, but is a solid permanent character regardless. Alright, and with this banner, we actually don't have any Earth Grand raid ups or any other raid ups for that matter. So I will mention the Zodiac here, which is Anila this time. Anila these days unfortunately doesn't see too much use. Anila back in the past was really useful for providing a strong buff with her third skill. But as grids have gotten stronger, this buff is these days quite mediocre. It's not bad if your account is still developing, but for most endgame players or meta things, she isn't really seen these days too much, so do keep that in mind. Alright, and I will mention Pela in a moment once we talk about whether you should spark this banner. So, should you spark this August Gala? And in my opinion, this is a good spark if you are an invested Titan player. This banner provides us a new Exalted weapon, one that you will need multiple copies of if you want to keep on top of your Titan grid. So if that is you, this is a good banner to spark on. However, if that isn't the case for you, I don't recommend sparking this banner. Medusa is a grand character. At the end of the day, she will be available every Legends banner from now on, which means that in December with Roulette, you can spark her. In New Year's, you can spark her. Next year in March, you can spark her. I know it might feel like you might be missing out in Guild War not having her. You'll probably see some teams using her for full auto, but I guarantee you most of the time you can probably do it with somebody else. And the other thing is her teams are quite restrictive, so if you don't have her supporting characters, she might not be able to shine as much as well, so do keep that in mind. But once again, if you are a Titan player, getting these weapons is important, so I would probably recommend sparking if that is the case. The other key banners coming up for Legend this year, if you want to spark Pela, because I mentioned that you might want to spark Pela before the end of the year, and you should because she's a good character. We have October Legend, which is Halloween. We have November Legend, which is Christmas. So those two are the banners you want to be keeping a lookout for. November Legend is the last banner Pela will be available as well. So that is something to really keep in mind. So just to sum up, I don't recommend sparking this banner unless you are an invested Titan player. And if you aren't, and you need to spark Pela on Legend, for example, I recommend waiting for October or November instead for Halloween and Xmas characters. Okay, and I think that will do me for this video. This one was a nice short and sweet one. There's only 2 characters. It's not a bloated banner, so it makes my job a lot easier, thankfully. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Once again, if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments below or on Mond. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.